Welcome back to abettersociety.info. This is the 22nd video in our regular series. It's part of a series that we've been doing dealing with the clash of ideas, the clash of the class-based societies that have been around for more than 10,000 years, and a new idea that maybe it was possible to have a society with a government that recognized all people as being first-class citizens. And what we want to look at in this video is the fact that ideas start out just as ideas. And maybe somebody writes about them, writes a book, several books about their ideas, like a guy named John Locke. And people read the books and say, well, this guy, he has some really good ideas here. But you see, just because somebody has a good idea doesn't mean it's just everybody's just going to implement the idea right then. It may take 100 years before some ideas are implemented, maybe longer. So when the idea of everybody being a first-class citizen came along, then at that particular point most of the world had what's called a class-based society. And so here in the United States, we came up with the idea that, well, we're going to give that a try. Now, we do understand that all of this was, the guys who formed the United States of America were a lot of them were classical scholars, and based upon classical knowledge, it was still thought that you couldn't have a totally classless society. I mean, Aristotle didn't think it was possible, and so, but we had these ideas. I mean, you read the Declaration of Independence, and you say, okay, well, those are the ideas that we want to implement. But you can't just implement some things just bang. It takes time to do that, and that was the case with the development of our system of government and our system of society. But we want to take a few minutes to talk about that original vision. And we're going to go back to the 4th of July celebration in Charleston, South Carolina in 1778. Now this would be 2 years after the Declaration was signed, and they're still kind of struggling with a centralized form of government. The first effort was to develop Articles of the Confederation, and that didn't work out too well, and some years later a bunch of them came back together again and wrote a new constitution, and it's that constitution that we operate under today. So there was a guy, his name was David, I guess it's Ramsay, R-A-M-S-A-Y, and he gave a speech in South Carolina on the 4th of July. And the ideas that he put forth was that first, he was happy that there was not an aristocracy in the United States when we started trying to run the English out. And so all the Europeans were first-class citizens. Now it's true that we still had slavery, and we're going to have to deal with that slavery issue sometime in the future. Of course, we have the Civil War, we have the Reconstruction era, and we finally start being able to implement those concepts, in my lifetime. So all of these things come in a progression. You can't have, today we're one thing and tomorrow we're going to be something else. It takes time to make these things happen. But it's kind of exciting that here we are in my lifetime, and we're really starting to be able to implement those ideas. And we want to know more about that so that we can be sure we don't backslide on the thing like we did one time before during the Reconstruction era. And so that's why we're talking about it. So that was the first thing he said. He also said that in the vision of America, that the government was going to protect the rights of the people, that the fundamental rights of life and liberty and religion, all of the things that eventually were implemented into the Bill of Rights, with the amendments 1 through 10, that was a list of the rights of individuals and their relationship with the government. So that was different than what was going on in Europe. I mean, in Europe, of course, there were different laws. The laws that would apply to an aristocracy person were not the same as the laws that applied to a commoner type person, or a person who was a second-class citizen or not a citizen at all. So, and the other part of it was that we were going to let all these people come here. Now we're still talking about Europeans at this particular point. And this, of course, is the progression. First off, we talk about Europeans, and then we're talking about black people, and then we're talking about Asian people, and then we're talking about people from all over the world. But at that particular point where this progression had developed, he's talking about Europeans. And we're going to let them all come in here, and we're going to provide them with as much freedom as we possibly can. The government's going to recognize their rights, and we're going to give them freedom. We're not going to restrict them the way they were restricted in Europe. In Europe, they were very restricted. And also in Europe, you had these plots of land, like the parts of Europe is today. There's France and Germany and Denmark and Holland and all of these different nations, and they've been fighting each other and continue to fight each other, up until my lifetime. And so there's all of these people, they've been over there killing each other for hundreds of years. And our vision is that we're going to let them come over here, and we're going to make it so they'll all live together peacefully. Well, that was quite an adjustment. Now, we don't focus on that too much in reading our history, but of course that was the case. That we read about the gangs of New York. The English people, historically the English and the German people were there, and then the Irish came, and there's all this conflict. And later on the Italians came, and there was all this conflict. And so there has been a history of conflict as we have tried to bring people in and integrate them within the society. I mean, that based upon what has gone on in history for hundreds, thousands of years, that's a real challenge. And we eventually have met the challenge, and for various different reasons we want to talk about later, we were successful at doing that. And by providing all this freedom and by bringing all these people in, and these weren't the educated aristocracy folks either. I mean, these were mostly the poor people of Europe who came over here, and because of the way we structured our society, all of this incredible progress was made. All of this technology was developed. All of these social systems were developed and refined, and we continue to refine them today. And so, a lot of this we don't even talk about. It is not included in our school textbooks. We need to understand these things better so we can continue to do better here, so that we don't backslide back like we did during the Reconstruction era, and so that we can help other people in the world do better in their nations also. So these are important issues, and we need to look at them. We need to learn more about them. We need to study them. And we're going to talk about them some more as we continue with these videos. So my time is probably up now, and I'll talk with you later.